In today's crypto gaming founder interview, we're talking to Luke of Pixels. He's letting us know why the game is doing so well, what is coming up in the near future, as well as how to best take advantage of the entire Pixels ecosystem and some Easter eggs coming up for you guys. So without further ado, let's dive straight in with Luke. Welcome to the show, Luke. Thank you so much for coming. Please let us know what's going on in the world of Pixels.
Yeah, no, excited to be here. Thanks so much for having me today. And yeah, it's been a pretty busy last couple months here at Pixels. We released chapter 2.5, which is a lot of economy upgrades in Pixels. We hosted a virtual version of Binance Blockchain Week, and we have a lot of fun stuff coming up over the next 90 days as well. I would kind of frame the last 90 days as kind of focusing on the fundamentals at Pixels, figuring out some of the key questions of Web3, making pretty tangible progress towards our goals of making Web3 gaming and play to earn sustainable. And yeah, we're still chugging along.
Nice. Yeah, you put chugging along. I'd say that's an understatement. Out of all these emerging Web3 games, you guys have definitely been crushing it. So congratulations on that. And we actually recently covered your Halloween event. So could you let us know how you feel like the vibe of that went inside Pixels?
Yeah, so Pixels has been pretty event driven for a long time. We love live ops and we love throwing holiday themed events. We love throwing community themed events. And the Halloween one is something that's been anticipated for a really long time. It's just we like having fun with these, right? So the initial part of the event was supposed to be more laid back and relaxed, but it was kind of like a celebration of the season. And yeah, there were a few game mechanics we introduced in this event that went pretty well. Basically, players could compete for these off-chain skins inside of the game, and players loved them. They were going crazy for these Halloween costumes that we introduced. You could be like a pirate, a zombie, all these other things. And we even introduced a few other gotcha mechanics around these costumes as well. And we saw one really good event participation without any spend, but we also saw a lot of spend when people were working towards getting these costumes too. And I like to talk about game mechanics, gameplay, all of that when we talk about Web3 gaming, but I think spend is also the best metric when it comes to identifying real users and real enthusiasm around the event. I think almost 1 million pixel was spent in these Halloween gotchas, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's wild. So it's actually showing that people genuinely care. We're going from Roblox and Fortnite, now we're getting over to the Web3 world. We're seeing some spend there, so that's really exciting. So with that, I guess you're proving that you have a working revenue model. You're also proving that your token price, every token struggled there because we haven't hit the proper gaming run yet. But other than that, you're holding up strong. So I know there's a lot of gamers as well as developers and other teams wondering, what is Pixels doing? So obviously you can't share the secret sauce, but for what you can talk about, what do you think that makes you stand apart and really rise as a Web3 game that people want to be around and play?
Yeah, there's a few things here. So we've been focused on the fundamentals since day one, and that's the only important thing to me. I don't really care about vanity metrics or hype or anything like that. What I care about is making progress towards sustainable play to earn. So there's a couple of things we need to think about when we're building here in Web3 gaming. One is, if you want to build a play to earn game, you need to think about user quality. That is a huge problem inside of Web3 in general right now, also just across the internet too. The internet is filled with bots. It's not just Web3 or Web3 games, but all over Twitter, Reddit, these other places too. But Web3 is interesting because the bot problem actually affects your marketing in a different way than Web2. The incentives are a little bit different. If you think about how we like to grow, we've grown to 9 million users on $0 of ad spend, and we do this through play to earn rewards, right? But what happens is if bots come into our ecosystem, they actually take away the play to earn rewards from real players, which lowers the growth of real users and also lowers our revenue. So that's bad for us, right? We're much more incentivized to clean out bots for this reason. And we put a lot of work into that. So you need to think about real user identification, building for quality users. You also need gameplay. You need something that people want to be spending on, and you need that quality there too. So these two things together have kind of helped us move the needle towards that. So what you're seeing in terms of Pixels over the last 90 days is we updated a lot of things around this real user identification, around determining user quality, and we've also started to make the game more fun, feel more fair, and attract a higher quality audience through that as well too. We've released a few systems. Our reputation system is one of our most exciting ones. We basically have built a system that looks at on-chain data in-game activity, on-chain activity, and we give users a score. So there's like a few like transparent rules that we have, and there's also some back-end data science that we've been doing in order to give users a score. And all this work that we've been doing is shown because the revenue's been increasing month by month. And I think the Binance Blockchain Week was a pretty good example of like a pretty successful event in the Pixels user base as well too. We had like 236,000 people participate in that event and 190 something thousand complete the quest inside of that. So that was like basically a non-incentivized event. You got like an in-game decoration that you put in your spec if you participated in that. But yeah, it just shows that there was like a really high intention audience and high quality user base behind Pixels too. So I mean, yeah, that's the kind of stuff we've been looking at, basically building out the fundamentals, earn technology, game quality, and curating the user base really well.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. And I've interviewed over the past few years a lot of game founders, and I must say, everyone talks about like Web3 and blockchain when it comes to the digital asset side, in-game currency economy, but they might be doing it, but no founders have talked about actually using on-chain data to see which players are actually most active, which are real, which are bots, and then rewarding the community that way. So obviously it's working from what we're seeing with Pixel. So it's really cool to see that there's like enough care that it's not just about like getting a marketplace up or a token up as quick as possible. You're actually paying attention to your gamers and users in the metaverse in Pixels and rewarding them. So that's fantastic. Also, you were just talking about Blockchain Week. I know we definitely want to talk about everything that's happening there through the Binance event that just happened. So could you, I know you just briefly talked about it, but is there anything more that you can share from that event itself?
Yeah, so Pixels was lucky enough to be able to host the official online version of Binance Blockchain Week. And it's cool because if you don't know the history of Pixels, we actually started off as an event platform and pivoted into Web3. So it's kind of a callback, and this used to be our bread and butter. So we have a lot of experience hosting online virtual events. And we were talking to Binance because we were sponsoring the in-person event, and it made a lot of sense for us to also host the virtual version. And overall it went super well. Basically how it worked was people were able to enter a virtual arena in Pixels that was one-to-one copy of the Coca-Cola arena in Dubai. Players were able to like go and interact with booths. We had a little in-game quest where if you actually interacted with each booth, you would get like these in-game items. We also hosted a bunch of like the live streams or like streamed the live streams of Binance Blockchain Week in game. So overall the metrics are really great. We attracted 236,000 unique users into the event, and then we had something like 190,000 like quest completions too. So we literally had 190,000 like high intent Web3 users looking at every single booth inside of the game, clicking on them, like looking at the information. Pretty successful event.
Yeah, that's incredible. I think any Web3 game would be beyond happy to have 190,000 people interacting on quests and things like that. And now coming up, we have the event that you're going to be in person in the Philippines in November. So that'll be really cool. And then we also can tell already that you're rewarding your players that are within the ecosystem already. So now with that, and what else can people look forward to coming up in like the end of Q4 as well as Q1 for Pixels?
Yeah, so we're getting better and better at data science too. Like what we're building out is smart token distribution. So basically if you're a user of Pixels, our end goal is we want to get more real users, more rewards, and we want to basically target them better. So there's a lot of enhancements going on there. The other things that we're working on too is, we have this really great like tech around play to earn rewards, around real user identification, bot prevention, and it'd be silly for us to keep all this tech just to this one game. So we actually have other games that will be joining the ecosystem pretty soon, whether it be by publishing or acquisition. And you're definitely going to see something like that before the end of Q4, which will be awesome. We just released a really cool feature yesterday that kind of ties into this too, called Login with Pixels, where other Web3 developers actually can now even use our login. So they get access to the Pixels user base and some of this tech that we built out, like a reputation system and some of our like user identification or segmentation metrics. So if they wanted to like basically give value to the Pixels ecosystem, they can do that, because we have vetted all of these users. We have like a good idea of like willingness to spend, other things like this. And then, yeah, we're also working on chapter 3 too. So you're gonna start to see like actually net new game mechanics come out in probably Q1, where we're probably focusing on elements of PvE, features that are like communities have been asking for literally since day one. So yeah, the team finally has capacity and like the ability to move on and build out new fun game mechanics as well.
Okay, very cool. And you talked about these games, like you're not just focusing on pixels, you're bringing in new games. So can you tell us like a little bit more of like the style of game or another game that exists already that you're kind of similar to?
Yeah. So I kind of like to view our publishing or acquisition strategy more like a Zynga. Like we're not trying to go and compete with other chains, right? Like we want to be very careful with who we bring on and share some of this tech with, and we want to be able to give them a lot of attention. Like basically, if we do publishing or acquisition, they're kind of coming into the family here at Pixels, and we're gonna work really, really closely with them. So what that means is we also need like a pretty tight overlap with our audience, and then also we need to think about ways that we can kind of expand our audience slightly. So the type of acquisition and publishing targets that we've been looking at are still mid-core, like slightly casual, wholesome. But yeah, you're gonna start to see basically more skill-based game mechanics and games enter our ecosystem. That's kind of the important part, because right now we have a great farming loop and a core loop here. We can actually expand the core loop via acquisition and publishing, which is cool. And then Web3 helps us connect them all.
Nice. Yeah, it's cool that you're actually going for the skill-based game. So can you give us like a hint of the type of skill-based game, or is that too pry?
I mean, we're gonna announce it pretty soon, to be honest.
Okay.
But yeah, just think about. I guess like what I can hint towards is think about the type of game. Think about what Pixels looks like more fleshed out. Like all the features that people have been asking for a long time. Things like PvE, things like skill-based combat. We can shortcut some of the stuff that we want to build via acquisition and publishing, right? So we're probably going to basically target all the things that would make sense to have in our game, where our core team can focus on building out some things, but we can get some other things in quicker that people want also.
Okay, nice. So yeah, I'm sure the people that have been in your community for a while, participating in the Discord and the X platform, can kind of have a guess at what's coming up. So that's exciting. Now, I just want to jump over to the developer side. So you've built up a good like relationship with Ronin and the team there themselves. Is there any advice that you can give new up and coming like developers or game founders how to participate with Ronin, or any advice you can give there?
Yeah, I think more Web3 developers need to stop thinking about competition and build something new and interesting. The space is too small to be so competitive. I think that's the biggest mistake I see with like some other Web3 game founders. They focus on what other people are doing. They follow trends a little bit too much. I think more Web3 game developers would have better success if they took bigger risks and did things differently more often.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of how you make strides with any partner. Right? Like, I talk to a lot of people that are, interested in token listings, all this kind of stuff too. And that's the same kind of thing I tell them, where it's like, okay, if you want to start to like work towards, getting your token out and doing all of that, like you have to do something new and innovate a little bit, right? I will say in Web3 gaming, just building a game is not enough. You have to also think about how you integrate the Web3 mechanics as well. That's like, I'm a huge fan of building fun games in Web3. That is very important. But also, sometimes the conversation gets a little too focused just on that side. Like if I were to go out and build a mobile game and I said, I don't really want to think about paid ads. That's not the important part about this. I just need to build a fun mobile game and users will come. That's not really how it works, right? Like if you're building a Web3 game, you really have to think about the Web3 integration, how it helps the game, and doing something novel there might really, make some positive strides, right? Like we're trying to innovate here at Pixels. I want to see people innovate in other directions that we didn't think about also.
Yeah, and now speaking of like things like the Telegram game industry, that's like picking up more and more and more. And not only is it fun, easy for players, it's great because you can really bring in a lot of revenue for the gaming ecosystem itself through microtransactions and things like that. Are you looking at developing more on Telegram at all in the future, or?
So we've been running a few small experiments in Telegram. My biggest skepticism of Telegram is user quality there. And there's potential for sure. The interesting part about Telegram right now is the user acquisition cost is really, really cheap compared to traditional platforms. Like if you're going out to acquire like a normal Web2 mobile user, you might pay like $1 to $2 per user. On Telegram, it can be as cheap as 1 cent. So
Yeah.
there is something interesting there. Now you also have to think about the other side too. Like, are these users, actually going to play the game? Are they actually going to stick around? And there's another more philosophical, question about revenue pre-token versus post-token. I think it's really, really important that games, before they launch a token, are able to monetize in a sustainable way. And I think that's generally what the market is starting to recognize and reward a little bit more. But I think what we're seeing with some of the previous like Telegram game launches is, revenue before a token launch and revenue after a token launch is very different. And games that can prove that they can actually sustain revenue after a token launch, those are going to be the ones that do really well there.
Okay, perfect. Great insights there. Thanks. And now I just want to pivot back to the community. We've noticed that there's some guilds starting to form up in Pixels and things like that. So is there any advice you can give to these guilds starting to form from your perspective?
Yeah, I think what we see is actually the guilds are crazy sometimes. I was talking to a guild leader the other day who basically went on the Pixels leaderboards and DM'd the top 100 players to get them to join the guild. Had a really great value prop around that. They joined, they created a super guild. I don't know. Same thing with guilds too. The people who are building a unique culture identity do really well. What we see is guilds tend to form around PFP collections sometimes, which is really cool. There's this one called Pals that kind of formed around Pixel Chibis, this NFT collection that formed in the Pixels community. And they all wear their same NFT avatars as they're walking around the game. It's a really cool sense of community with that. Yeah, we see guilds form around unique player personas also. It's just a group of like-minded people playing the game together, right? That's the kind of stuff we love to encourage. So if you are trying to form a guild, we like to amplify guilds also, and we like to support early new guilds. Go write a post on X about it, and Pixel's team will probably, retweet it, amplify it for you also.
Nice. Yeah, it's great to see that you guys are so involved with the community and supporting guilds, and it's definitely going to help the game continue to grow. We'll have to have another whole conversation after on data science and stuff like that. I know people will definitely want to hear about it. Have you thought of doing talks at live events about it to the Web3 community?
A little bit. I mean, it's interesting because we're in a pretty unique spot right now because we have 2 years of live game data. We have a game that monetizes. We have a lot of information that we can pull about users, and it's kind of hard because it's kind of hard to compete with that with other games because we already have this user base. We've already vetted a lot of the user base. We've been spending a couple of years labeling accounts bought, not bought, and we have years of spend data too. You need to have that user base to actually go out and get the insights. We have a sufficient user base to go out and do really good A/B testing. The fun stuff really starts now that we have all of this going because once you get through this stuff, it gets even more interesting. You can start thinking about things like who are the right people to give out rewards to. If I give out a reward to this type of user, does that affect spend for this other user group? There's so much cool real economic stuff that you can start to experiment with. In terms of talks, I'm more than happy to talk about it. We talk about it on our AMAs a lot, actually. Our AMAs are funny because they're for the players to ask questions about what we're up to. It's also for the team to kind of be held accountable on, are we actually getting stuff out on a consistent basis? We have to go and tell the community what we're working on every single week. And this is a lot of the stuff that I dive into there.
Nice. Are they the same time every week?
Yes, except for the last couple weeks, but they're almost always at 12 p.m. PST on Wednesdays.
Okay, perfect. So you guys make sure you're paying attention to these because you'll learn a little bit about Web3 gaming, but then also find out what's happening at Pixels. And speaking about that, now please let our viewers know what is coming up in the very near future for Pixels, what they should focus on, and where they can find you on X and Discord, please.
Sweet. Yeah, so in the next month or two, more game updates are coming. The game's getting better and more fun every single week. We have a big surprise that'll probably come out and be announced in the next month that'll add like a lot more gameplay into the game. And then if you want to stay up to date, follow us on X at pixels_online, or just go to our website, pixels.xyz. You can go and play the game for free. You don't need a wallet to sign up. It takes like 10 seconds, and you can get started immediately.
Okay, that sounds awesome. Well, you've heard it here first, guys, from Luke. So make sure you head on over to their website right now and start joining Pixels. And if you haven't already, make sure you're heading over to Funjible.games. That is our Web3 gaming platform for gamers by gamers. There you can see Web3 gaming interviews like you just saw with Pixels, as well as walkthroughs and things like that. Now, for instance, here is the Pixel page. All you do is search by games, find Pixels. Right now, it has a user rating of 4.4 out of 5, so that's looking good. And then what you can see here is you can leave your own review. So if you love playing Pixels, please come over, create your account, and leave a review here. We talk about graphics, gameplay, story, and economy. We have one from Asta here, as well as Fake Baba. And then if you want to learn more about the game, we've got about section, news, things like that. And we have over 600 games on the website. So definitely learn more about Pixels and the other games we have on our website. Thank you so much for watching. Really enjoyed this one on Pixels, and we'll see you in the next video.